Hi, so it's been a while. Please excuse my hair. I've had a hat on all day and it's doing its own thing. I've got to sort it out later. So first off, apologies again if you find you can't hear me very well. I did purchase in this little bag a clip-on microphone and for some reason it's not recording, so I need to look into the settings and see if I can get that going again. But hi, I did want to come back sooner, but things have been a bit chaotic. So part 3, I'm going to do another health update. My next video will be a bit more fun, but as it's been another long period since I've been able to film, I thought I would do a quick video and update you on where I am so far. So you may have noticed the hair's gone, I'm back to me. The hair's gone black again. I've shaved the sides in because it was growing so much it looked awful. These side bits are doing what they want. I'm just gonna tuck them back there because they're doing my head in. This is Leonard, by the way, and Derek. Derek will come into play later. I'll explain why. So apologies if I don't have my lights on or anything. I'm doing this before I lose the light in the lounge. But part 3 of where I've been and what's going on. So I did mention in part 1 and 2, I think, about being in hospital again in November. So that was going to be the next video. Unfortunately, I then ended up in hospital again in January. So to date, it's what day is it? Saturday the 8th of April. So basically Easter Sunday is tomorrow. So a year ago to the event, this all kicked off, but it will be a week Monday on the 17th that I got sick. So this is kind of an anniversary. I'm kind of doing things this weekend that I don't think about it. And I know it sounds strange that I'm filming YouTube, but in filming YouTube, it's keeping my mind off. It's a bit of an oxymoron, but then so am I. So, you know, it's one of those things. But I've been out all day. We went into town. We went to the cinema yesterday. We're going to the cinema tomorrow. And Monday I am clothes clearing, which is something I need to do. So what happened in November? So I went back to work. I had recovery from the end of June until Halloween. And on Halloween, I went back to my day job in a phased approach. The job had nothing to do with what happened. Basically, I was doing short hours, working from home. It was all good. Did have a change of job, so it wasn't as stressful as I've been used to. So it was a big kind of difference in stress levels. But unfortunately, I started getting stomach pain around about the 20th of November. And by the 24th of November, I was back at my GP going, this isn't right, please help me. And they said, we think you need to go back up the hospital. So they sent me to SDEC, which is same day emergency care. And they said they'll do your bloods, they'll do some tests, they'll do urine samples, all that kind of thing. And they will take it from there. They will probably admit you, but they need to do it. So I went, okay, fine. I've got a bag with me. I'm expecting to go back in. Not an issue. So I went to SDEC and that's exactly what happened. I had blood tests. I had, whilst I've done blood tests, a CT scan, and basically another gallstone got caught, but this time in my bile duct. and bile was backing up and infecting my liver. And I can tell you it was not pretty at all. I turned a very horrible shade of yellow. I was very jaundiced. I had a lot of pain. I was on the ward 3 days, I think. So I was admitted on the Thursday and I was transferred on the Sunday night. So I was 4 days. I was up in one of the wards at the hospital. They then transferred me downstairs. Now, that was to a kind of surgical ward. Now, what I know happened is that on the Saturday night to Sunday morning, the gallstone moved. Now, I know this because I felt it. Anyone who is watching who has been through chronic illness or just genuinely knows your body knows when something's happened, and it did. The gallstone moved. So they didn't believe me. They said, no, it hasn't. We're going to have to take it out and we're going to have to do a procedure on you. So we're moving you downstairs. And they were going to do the procedure on the Tuesday. Now, the procedure I had, I'm not going to pronounce because it's this many letters. It's huge. But it's an ERCP, which is basically an endoscopic radial something or other. And it's where they sedate you very heavily. I don't remember anything. But they sedate you and they put you have a mouth guard and your lead on your tummy, and they put a scope down your throat, and it goes down your throat into your stomach and up into the ducts that they need to get into. So they tried to do that. The first time, it was just not going to happen. I was very anxious I think if I'd not been in the coma, sedation wouldn't have bothered me, but it kind of bothered me knowing that I was going to have yet another tube down my throat. And unless you've been in that position, you don't get it. It's a real strange form of PTSD that just the whole thought of it happening again. No, I know it won't, but the thought of it's just... So I went down for the procedure. Unfortunately, my body being what it is, this cannula stopped working. Now, the cannula I had in my elbow, so kind of here in my arm, had been working for 6-7 days at this point. No, so 5 days straight. And it had been antibiotics, painkillers, general stuff I'd had, everything was fine. They got in and they went to flush it and it wouldn't go. So they had to put in another cannula, which I hate. I'm not afraid of needles. I'm not afraid of blood tests, not a problem. But it's because of the amount of weight I've lost. So I've now lost, what let me know I was ill was I lost 10 kilograms in 30 days throughout the course of October. Now, 10 kilograms in pounds is, we're looking at 2.2 pounds per kilo. So 22 pounds in weight for my American friends out there in 30 days. And they recommend on a normal healthy weight loss, 1 to 2 pounds a week. And I'd lost 22. I'm like, this isn't, but no one was taking any notice because they were going, but you're losing weight, it's really good. That's how I knew I was ill. Plus I couldn't eat much. I was being sick a lot. It was not a nice time. But because of the weight I've lost, my skin is now very sensitive. My veins are so sensitive, which I'll tell you a bit more about when I tell you about my third visit, which I'll do straight after this. I can feel the needle. I don't mind it when it pierces the skin. I don't have an issue with that. It's, I prick my fingers to test my blood sugars all the time, so I don't have an issue with that. I inject myself twice a day. I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is when I feel it go into the vein. And they all go, you can't feel it. Yeah, I can feel it go in the vein, through the vein, up the vein. I know when they've burst the vein. So on the back of my hand here, I've got a slight dark vein. It's not a vein, it's a bruise that will not go away. It's been there for two and a half months. And it's where a nurse didn't let me explain my body and made me feel a bit guilty in the "don't you trust me" kind of conversation. And she put a needle into my hand with a cannula that was too thick for the vein, and the vein was raised. I could feel it. A cannula, for someone who's never had one, a blood test, you have a needle, the needle goes into the vein, sucks the blood out. A cannula, the needle goes in and then it injects like a fibre stick, really. It's very floppy, but it allows you to soak it and inject meds and all sorts of things, liquid medicine, into a patient very quickly, straight into a vein, rather than having to stick them with needles or make them take tablets. So if you've had a cannula, you know what I'm talking about. But the one she put in, when she put the needle through, she screwed the vein, and the cannula insert was about 0.5 mil too wide for my vein, which I told her and she wouldn't listen. So my veins are very, very damaged. I've had 44 cannulas to date, and out of those 44, probably 9 have managed to stay in my skin and work. The rest of them have broken within 12 hours or have stopped working within 12 hours. So they can't flush them, they can't get meds through, they can't do anything. So because that cannula stopped working in my elbow, he had 5 attempts. My wrists, the backs of my hands and my other elbow. And it was just not happening. None of them were working. He could get them in or they would just bleed everywhere. So they then went, okay, what we'll do is we'll flush the arm one again and just see if it will work. We'll put a lot of pressure. Are you okay with that? I said, I want it done. So yeah. So they put a load of pressure through and the cannula worked. So they were like, great, lie on the table, get into position. Everything was ready. And then they decided they wanted me to move. And what they'd done was put tape on the cannula. Once it flushed and it was working, they wanted it in the right position. So they put tape on the cannula and it got stuck to my surgical gown that I was wearing. And it ripped out of my arm and they went, we can't, that's it, we're done. We can't try anymore. So it never went ahead. The next one was then done on the Friday. So I had, and this is where this little chap comes into play. The night before, I'd gone down the shop at the hospital because I don't hate the NHS. The NHS are amazing, and without them I wouldn't be here. That's no word of a lie. However, there are certain things that are not helpful, as in the ward I was on at the time, you can't get food after 5 o'clock. Once they've given you food, that's it. If you're at home and you're peckish at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, you can go to the fridge or go to the cupboard and get something. You can't in a hospital. So they were expecting you to go from 5 p.m. till 7 in the morning with nothing. And I said, with my diabetes the way it is, and with my stomach the way it is, I need to eat little and often. So before they'd put me on nil by mouth, I said to the Griffin, take me to the shop. And I bought this fella because I was missing my cats. And the next day I had the most wonderful, wonderful Nigerian nurse called Derek. He was awesome. Because I'd had to be nil by mouth for quite a long time for this one, they went to do my blood sugars and I had to be at 5.5 or above. Any of you diabetics out there in the UK will understand that measurement. Anyone in the States, I'm sorry, I don't know what the conversion chart is and it's on my phone, so I can't get to it because that's what I'm talking to you on. So yeah, 5.5. So kind of above the lowest normal range for a normal person. Unfortunately, mine were 3.2 and I was in a hypo and didn't even know. And he had to talk me through it, because until this point I'd never had one. And it sounds daft being new to diabetes and new to managing it, but I'd never had a hypo. I've been so good at my insulin and my management and my food to this point that I'd never been that low. My blood's, the lowest they'd ever been was 4.8 just before a meal, which isn't too bad, especially just before food. So yeah, he had to talk me through getting my bloods up quickly and glucose tablets, and his name was Derek, and he looked after me so well. My cat got called Derek, and he will also feature in another video, which I'm going to do maybe this weekend, I don't know, but it will be up soon. So yeah, that he helped me through it. He helped me through the hypo, and I went in for the procedure. It went fine. So what they did was they went down through my throat, into my stomach, into my bile duct, and there was no gallstone there, even though they said there was. It had gone. So they scraped through the bile duct. I didn't feel a thing. I don't even remember being in the room. They scraped through the bile duct to make sure there was no stone granules left and any residue or anything like that. And then they actually stretched my bile duct. So what they did was they went up with a balloon, and it's a long thin balloon, and they blew it up, blew it up and blew it up, and kept it in place for about 20 minutes, because the whole procedure took about 2 hours. They kept it in place for about 20 minutes and then deflated the balloon very, very slowly, and the bile duct stayed where it was. So since that point, I've actually passed more gallstones, and I haven't felt it, which means it's doing its job. That should have been it, and I should have been looking at gallbladder removal. And once the jaundice had gone and my liver had sorted itself out, which it did pretty quickly, as soon as they'd done that procedure, excuse me, it was almost instant that I started looking normal again. And I'd say within 48 hours, I was back to my normal pasty goth colour. I have makeup on today, so I'm a bit more tanned than normal. So yeah, I was back to normal, certainly skin-wise, which was nice, and I was moving around better. But they kept me in another week because they decided they were going to send me to the John Radcliffe in Oxford to have a procedure called an ESU. And that was because due to the liver, the pseudocyst that I had, that had shrunk a little bit, had actually grown back, and was a little bit larger than before. So they wanted to put a drain in to get rid of it. So I got a day trip to Oxford through an ambulance. Lovely nurses up there. They looked after me brilliantly. Derek came with me. They looked after him. And when I woke up from the procedure, he was sat next to me. So it was really sweet. And that was an endoscopic ultrasound, so an ESU. And they went in and they, similar as before, so down through the throat, knocked me out. Not a problem. Don't remember it. And what did they do? They went into my stomach and they placed a metal stent. So a metal tube, kind of a funnel-shaped tube. It's a weird shape. That goes into my cyst because it's a sac of fluid. And the idea was it would drain through this pipe into my stomach and I would pass it naturally. They then sent me home from that procedure, I think 4 days later. That happened on the following Wednesday. And I came home. When did I come home? I don't even remember. I know it was a block of days that I was there. But they allowed me to come home. So I went in on the 24th of November and came home on the 9th of December. So I was in there again a fair, 16 days? And again, it was quite a lot to deal with. It was a lot. 2 procedures, a lot of time just sitting around, taking my antibiotics, waiting to be sick, being sick, listening to a lot of people come in and out because it was a surgical ward. They were changing within a couple of days and going home, and I'm sitting there going, my turn at some point. But I felt a lot better, and I came home and I had Christmas with the family, went to see my mum and dad. Only a short thing. We saw the Griffin's kids Boxing Day, and everything was fine. I was getting ready to have my stent removed, hoping that the cyst had drained. And hopefully get back to work. That, however, didn't happen. Round about the 18th of January, I started getting really sick, to the point where I would wake up in the middle of the night and just throw up. I was sleeping downstairs, so I had a bowl by the bed, you know, kind of hangover style, but constant. It wasn't even proper vomit. You know, when you've been sick with food, it wasn't even that. It was literally, I feel sick, and it was like water, or stomach bile, or like foam. It was just, oh, it was horrible. And that went on for a number of days. And again, I phoned the doctor. I'm like, I'm not right. I need to go to hospital. So I packed a bag again and went back to the doctor, and she said, yep, you need to go back. And I was sent straight to the surgical assessment unit this time, and I was kept in. And that was not fun. So what had happened was, one of the days I'd been sick had been after eating, and unfortunately some of the food had got stuck in the stent and blocked the hole, and the cyst, the pressure of the cyst, it got infected, it started solidifying. It was not pleasant. And they said, we've got to drain the stent. So I went back to my local hospital. I was there I went in on the Tuesday, I believe. And I can't remember what day, well, whatever the 24th was, because I know it was 24th both times. And on the Thursday, after 3 days after telling me you're going to Oxford again, I finally got transferred. I got to Oxford about 7 o'clock at night, and I was screaming in pain. I'd been in the hospital nearly a week, I think. I'd had nothing to eat. And when I mean nothing, I mean nothing. No water. I wasn't allowed water. I wasn't allowed to drink. I wasn't allowed to eat. So I'm in pain because I'm hungry. I'm dehydrated, so I've got headaches. And then they decide on a brilliant one and go, you're diabetic. We need to put you on what we call a sliding scale. I'm like, what the hell's that? And they couldn't explain it to me. Eventually, a nurse explained it, that what they term a sliding scale is they put you on a fluid drip, which has glucose and some other vitamins and minerals in it, rather than just the normal saline fluid that they give you. To keep my body going, they put me on this, and they had to do that because of my diabetes. And then they had to give me a fast-acting insulin pump. So I had the hanging bag, and then I had the pump thing, and however much was going through, it would pump insulin into me as well, and it would all go in. And then the hell started, because once they connected me to it, they then went, we need to check your bloods every hour. Now, having been in hospital for a long period of time, I'm used to every 4 or 6 hours getting woken up for blood pressure, normally 6 hours, unless there's a specific reason you need 4. So I'm used to going to sleep after they've done, normally around 10 o'clock, 10 p.m, the blood pressure, and then getting woken up at like 4 o'clock in the morning for the next one, to be woken up then at 6 for meds. I'm fully used to that. But for 5 days in my local hospital, I was being woken on the hour every hour. So I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm sleep deprived to the point of delirium, and I was in pain. So I'd asked for pain meds. They gave me a paracetamol drip, and I said, it's not touching it. It's helpful, but it's not getting through the pain. They said, well, we'll give you, I said, I can't have Oromorph, which is oral morphine. It's done on a syringe. And I can't have codeine. And they said, that's fine, we'll give you oxycodone. I went, that's fine, I could take that. And she brought round this little syringe, and I took it, and projectile vomited all over it instantly. I went, no, that's not going to work. You've got to find something else. I need an injection or a drip of something other than paracetamol that's going to work. And all they kept saying is either the doctors were busy and didn't have time to prescribe it, or they couldn't give it to me. By the time I got to Oxford, I was screaming. I was in so much pain. I didn't want anyone to touch me. Swindon had to take out my cannulas because they didn't want me to travel with them. They wanted new ones put in Oxford. So they had to put cannulas in, and I was just screaming. I was just like, no. So the lovely nurse I had there, Carla, I know you will never see this, but thank you for everything. She looked after me quite a few shifts that I was up in Oxford. She basically said, we'll get her a PICC line for tomorrow because her cannulas are just not going to be good enough. They tried to put one in. I couldn't take it. I couldn't move my arm. My elbow started swelling. They couldn't get any in my hands. So they gave up, and she said, yeah, we're not going to keep doing this to her. She's going to get a PICC line. However, she did turn around and say, why are you not on any pain meds? And I tried to explain, and she went, give me 10 minutes. Well, I think she was back in 5 with an injection straight in my stomach and went, there's your oxy, give it 20 minutes and you won't feel a thing. Best thing she ever did for me. They waited till the following morning. I saw a surgeon who was mightily annoyed at my local hospital for not giving me any food or water. He said, there's no reason you couldn't drink. You can drink, it's fine. But please just take it slowly and water. No squash, no tea, please just water. And when you feel like you want to eat, let me know, let the nurses know, and we'll get you something small to eat. But just be careful because we don't want you being sick too much. So I'm like, I'd rather just get water in me because if I do drink, I don't feel so hungry. And he's like, that's fine, but I'm going to go and ring your hospital and I'm going to read them the riot act because they should not have left you without anything. I managed to get some sleep. The next morning, I had a lovely lady called Grace who came round and put my PICC line in. And I don't know if I've still got the scar. Yeah, here. You probably can't see, but there's a little mark. She put that in. Now the PICC line goes up the big vein here and sits about here, just above the heart. And again, I could feel it, even though everyone told me I shouldn't be able to. I'm like, every time you flush it, I can feel it. But the good thing about the PICC line is it has 2 cannula ports on the end. And once they're in, they're in. They stay in for years if you need them to, as long as they're secure and they don't get infected. So my PICC line was in for 9 days. And it was great. It was the best thing they could have done for me because I didn't need anything else. They did one piece they kept and they bandaged up and they kept it clean. And the other one was used for my meds, my antibiotics, all the other bits and pieces that I needed. They did put me on the sliding scale again between, I would get 20 minutes off. So every 4 hours, I would get an extra maybe 30 minutes from not having my blood tests done because I was on the antibiotics, and then they would start again. So it was quite sporadic, but again, sleep deprivation. And yeah, I was basically going to have another ESU procedure to unblock the stent. That was then done on the Friday. They went to do it, and I'm really glad I don't remember. They sedated me. I remember being in the room. I remember being in a lot of pain. So it's like literally the next day. I knew I was in a lot of pain. They managed to get me on the table very, very carefully. And they put the mouthguard in. And the last thing I remember is them doing the final checks to say, is this the right patient, checking your wristbands, etc. And I don't even remember them trying to sedate me. The next thing I know, I'm back on the ward. And they said, sorry, we couldn't do it. we'll take you back to your bed. And I'm like, okay. About 2 hours later, the doctor that was going to perform the procedure came to see me, and she went, we couldn't do it. She said, you were screaming and fighting me when we tried to put the scope. She said, you had the mouth guard, that was fine. And it's like a thing, just hold your mouth open, your tongue down. She said, but you wouldn't let me put the scope in. She said, at one point you punched me in the stomach to get me away from you. And at that point I knew you were in too much mental distress and physical distress that your subconscious was saying no. And at that point I could not go ahead with the procedure, so we brought you back and woke you up. She said, so what we're going to do now is we're going to have to wait another week, and we're going to put you under general anaesthetic. And I'm like, okay, fine. They said, please eat and drink as you want to. Again, clear fluids, so you can have an apple juice, you can have water. Please no squash, because we want to be careful what's in it. Don't drink anything you're not given from us in the hospital. And we will get you some food. So I was still in a lot of pain. I had a lovely junior doctor on the Sunday who came to see me. We had to replace my catheter because that blocked and wouldn't work, and I was in pain from that. And then about an hour and a half after he'd done that, I called him in absolute agony and was very sick. I'm not going to describe what came up, but it was foul to the point where he was gagging with the smell, as was I, which was making me even more sick. And the colour is something I've never seen come out of a human body before. So there was about 2 litres worth of liquid. Now I have a 2 litre bottle of water here. That's a lot of liquid, and they said it was about 2 litres. On the Friday, so I got all ready for this procedure, I started to feel a lot better. I was eating. By about Tuesday, Wednesday, I was great. The Griffin came to see me. I was sitting up in bed, chatting away. Tired, but I was okay. Because I was on the glucose drip again as well. So I was still being woken every hour and not getting a lot of sleep. And then they said, yeah, we're going to do it on Friday. So Thursday night, nil by mouth, here we go again. And Friday, I'm sitting there waiting to be called down. And nothing happens. And then the doctor comes up and she went, we've cancelled it. And I'm like, why? And she said, you remember that horrible stuff you threw up? Your stent unblocked. And the cyst started to clear itself in both manners, which is basically upwards and down. I'll leave that rest to your imagination. She said, so we're going to do one more CT scan. We'll try and get that done this afternoon. And if we do, you can go home tomorrow. And that's what happened. They did the CT and they went, you can go. Please just drink a load of fluid because your kidneys, where you've not had a lot of water, aren't great, and you've got a kidney stone which we need to look at. And they sent me home. I was home on the Saturday. So up until this point, again, I've been recovering. I had 4 weeks of being very, very sick, nausea, diarrhea, and that was just the cyst clearing out of my system. And since then I felt great. The last month, since kind of around mid the first week of full week of March, I felt amazing. I feel more like me than I felt in a long, long time. I'm now at the point where I've lost 10 stone in weight, which is a lot. So I may look a little bit, I don't know if my face has changed since the last video. I know my skin has improved because I'm back on my skincare routine, and I'm drinking a lot more. I'm drinking a lot more. I'm saying that again because my alarm went off. So yeah, I'm drinking about 3 to 4 litres of water a day, which is what I'm told to drink before anyone says it's too much. I have been told to drink that amount because of this kidney stone, which is in my tube rather than in the kidney. I do have one in my kidney, but I'm going in on the 25th of April to have that done. That's just an overnight stay, and I'll be back the next day. And then I've just got 2 weeks working from home, not moving around too much, just not putting out too much pressure on my kidneys. But other than that, I'm fine. I'm doing really well. So yeah, as always, drop any comments down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. I don't know if you will. Please share it with anyone who you know may be going through something similar, or been having problems, or, you know, knows someone who's going through something similar. You know, we need to share these things in the world. But in general, I'm good, considering I'm currently going through the 2 weekends of the event anniversary, as in Easter, and then the dates next week. I'm doing really well. I'm doing everything I can to keep busy. I went back to work Thursday full time, so that's been really exciting. And most people won't think it is, but I need the mental stimulation, so I've gone back to work. And yeah, I'm doing really, really well. My stamina's improved. I will do a video on my actual recovery progress. But yeah, my stamina has improved, my strength has improved. My weight has gone up a little bit, but I don't mind. I lost a lot, and then when I was ill in kind of February, March, and then over the last 3 weeks, I've put a bit back on, mainly because I'm eating again fully, like 3 meals a day, and I'm hungry. Mainly because I've had problems with my blood sugars being too low in the morning, so I'm having to eat a lot of sugary foods in the morning, which is putting weight on. And because I've been a bit naughty and had fish and chips a couple of days, you know, because why not? Life's too short, and as long as I'm not making myself ill, a couple of treats is not going to kill me. So, yeah, if you got to the end of this video, thank you very much. Purple heart in the comments if you got this far. Lovely to chat to you all again. I'm going to try and do another one. I'm sorry if I'm rushing the end of this video a little bit. I've got to do my meds because I didn't realise the time. That's why if the alarm went off. So I need to go and do those. But if you have enjoyed this video, let me know. And I will be back with a recovery one soon. Hopefully I might film it this evening. And I also want to do a what's in my hospital bag for those of you who have maybe got surgery coming up and have got a long stay, or go into hospital suddenly, or do have to make regular trips. These are the bits that I found really helpful. So I'm going to leave it there because I do need to go and eat and do my medication, as I've said. Thank you for watching. And as always, mwah, look after yourselves and just do you.